So, Mitch, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So, can you talk a little bit, I guess, about why you're a men's coach and why this is your passion to help people?
So for me, like if we go back, um, I did work as an actor for over 2 decades, and as I went through my neurolinguistic training programming, I went and got my master's certification in NLP. That whole process of going through that really tore away different layers of who I was. Then I started working with shamanic plant medicines, did a lot of different ayahuasca journeys. And out of all of that, if you've ever heard of the concept of ikigai, right? That Japanese like sense where it's like, what are you good at? What does the world need? What's your
Ah,
passion? Right. And that was where this all fit. It
ah,
was like, okay, I've got a unique skill set here. Um, I like working with men. I like teaching, and it all coalesced in this idea of, okay, I can take this, let's just call it what it was, basically crazy experiment of 2 decades, right? Because it's not, let's be real, it's not normal
well, I
that
mean,
someone would go
key the
through.
listeners in. What is this background you did for 2 decades? Because not everybody's gonna know that up front.
Oh, so I was one of the world's greatest porn stars for better part of 2 decades. And I'm probably the last, uh some people referred to me as the last of the Mohicans, because I never took Viagra. I never took any performance enhancing drugs, because when I started, which was back in 1998, that wasn't available.
Mm,
And so, the older guys that I grew up around, it was all based on mindset, and then it was all based on strategy. And the guys that were good really understood how to hone that as a skill.
okay.
And so when I work with guys, I'm saying, here are some skills that I've developed, and they are teachable. You can learn this stuff. And I think often where guys get left behind in society, but certainly in sexuality, is that they're not really taught anything,
Yeah. I mean, none of
you
us are
know?
really are, right? We're all reinventing the wheel, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I mean, especially men, it seems very much like society says, okay, you're 12 years old, 14 years old, you're full of testosterone, you have your penis. It's like giving a 10-year-old the keys to a Ferrari and saying, go off and drive.
Right.
No need to have any sort of driver's license or any sort of understanding about anything. And then guys get out there, and there are expectations. They feel the pressure to quote unquote perform. And a lot of guys, if they don't figure it out, especially, some guys I work with, I'm sure you do too, like if they have if the first experience they have is bad,
Yeah.
they can get very traumatized.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
get very traumatized about it. So, yeah, so that's where my mission came about, was just, how can I help these guys not only be better, but be the best that they can be, just based off what I've seen and what I know.
Yeah. Can I ask you what you even think of the word performance? Because I kind of have stricken that out of I mean, I just hate that word. Sex is not a performance. Nobody should have to perform. Anyway, in my sex therapy practice, I'm trying to take that sense of pressure out. But like, how do you think of that word, and how do you talk to your clients?
Yeah,
It,
see, and again, this is very, very much I would say, male centric kind of perspective, because, fundamentally, how I work with it with clients and how I see it, we can't strip performance out of it, because, you know, I I'll talk about two things: the decisions of sex and the actions of sex. And decisions are all up to the female. Sometimes I'll have a joke where I say, okay, well, if me and a girl go into a bar and both of us scream at the top of our lungs, who wants to have sex with us tonight? I'm going to hear crickets, and guys are going to be falling over themselves trying to get at her, right? So, it's that, if you go back to any of David Data's teaching, it's choose the woman that chooses you. The women are choosing.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we get into the act part, well, now it's fundamentally all up to the man in the sense of if he doesn't get it up, doesn't matter how much you wanted this to happen, it's not going to happen. If he lasts 15 seconds and you had it in your mind, well, we're going to be going for 30 minutes and this is going to be great, it's not going to happen. So there isn't a way to really remove the performance out of it. The way I look at it is, okay, well, what are we going to do to sort of set ourselves up for success? And I think about it very much in terms of athletics. The hockey player, he knows he has to perform. He's got to play the game.
Yeah.
We can't get away from that. So it's like, okay, well, if you have to play the game, how are you going to understand the rules of the game? And how are you going to be able to quell your anxiety so that, when it is that, metaphorical Super Bowl, you don't choke under the pressure, right?
So when you're talking about performance, you're talking about erection,
Yeah, I'm
getting
talking
getting
about,
and keeping an erection long enough, that
well,
you and
I'm
your
talking
partner are
about a
having a
number of
good time.
things. I'm talking about ability to obtain and maintain the erection, ability to consciously last as long as you choose to, because I think there's a lot of discrepancy around what that should be.
Mm-hmm.
I work with some guys, and I think I'm sure you do too, where some guys think in their minds, if I can go for 2 hours, that means I'm good. Check mark, success. It's like, well, no, right? Um, if you were to give a woman 3 to 5 orgasms in 20 minutes versus the guy that was able to achieve nothing in 2 hours, who's actually creating a better sexual experience, right? And then imagine, for example, you would like to create something with your significant other. Kids are coming home in 7 minutes.
Right.
It would be really good to wrap it up in 5, right? And that's
Yeah.
conscious,
Yeah.
right? Like we got to say, you know what? And I refer to it in the terms of you need to be able to call your shot, meaning, okay, if 30 minutes is what we need, I have the tools at my disposal to get myself there. If 5 minutes is what's needed, I have the tools to get myself there as well.
Mm.
And so I think about that aspect of lasting longer through that lens. And then there's all about creation, right? And this is, okay, what sort of archetype are you stepping into in the bedroom? Are you showing up as the tender lover? Are you showing up as the passionate seducer? Are you showing up as what I call the dominant power fucker? Or are you showing up as the crazy spontaneous guy? Each one of them is going to create a different mood, right? And you got to step into those archetypes in a way that is authentically you without being somebody else.
How much of this is co-created with their partner in the moment about how long should this go and which archetype would I enjoy? I mean, are you are you thinking that men should like figure this out and show up in some way and have made that decision, or are there
No,
conversations with
you're
the
you're
partner?
you're feeling into it. I mean, a lot of it, at least what I've found over my time, there's so much of it where it's not overt communication. A lot of it I found is very covert communication. Um, so in terms of performance, it's, well, what are you feeling in terms of the other partner, right? I find feeling is the most nuanced act that gets overlooked, especially when we're talking about arousal and we're talking about what's working with the body. So, is there a communication that needs to happen? Like when I look at it in terms of 3 levels of sexual satisfaction, the first I look at is sexual alignment. The second one I'm looking at is what I call sexual chemistry. And the third one is sexual compatibility. And it's that sexual compatibility piece where I find it's all based on communication,
Mm.
because that is wants, needs, and desires, right? Where are your red lines? What sort of acts do I like? What do I not like? But in the first ones, it's a little bit different from my vantage point.
Can you speak to each of those three, like a little bit of the
Um,
definition and examples of them?
so the sexual alignment piece, And this came from my whole career. And what I found was there's a lock and key between just the biology that we can't seem to overlook. And so when I talk to guys about this in terms of what is sexual satisfaction, I found that, and I talked to a lot of women about this too. I said, okay, skill set aside, would there be a particular penis shape, size, curvature, just purely physical characteristics that feels better than any other? And
And
most women I talk to say yes, there is
okay.
one for them, right? And I
Hence
found
the
that
lock and key kind of thing, right? How does this
yes,
insert and feel?
yes,
Yeah.
but so in terms of the other flip side for men, what I found was there was 4 different types of vaginas based on what I had felt, and this is just me feeling over 5,000 interactions and just stripping across the data and saying, okay, these are qualitatively different experiences.
Hmm.
And what is behind that? And I found that most guys will find there will be a quadrant where, just from a sexual sensory perspective, things feel much better. And that makes a big difference in terms of, oh my God, this is so great. Because I ask people, they'll say, well, 5 years ago, there was this girl named Susie, and it was just the best sex ever. And I say, why? And we start going down that rabbit hole. Why, why?
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of men, it's the sensory aspect to it. It's
Okay.
a big part because it is different,
Okay.
right? And so that's the first piece. Then when I'm looking at sexual chemistry, for me, that is smells, pheromones, and energy. What kind of energy are we stepping into here with, right? Because there's all sorts of different discrepancies with that. We can have someone that's, they've got that crazy sort of energy, right? They're very open in the bedroom. They're very dynamic. They're doing a lot of stuff. And then even in terms of, the smells and stuff, like you could sometimes even just be with someone and just the smell of their skin, it's an instant turn on. You can be with someone else where it's like something just feels off from this
Yeah.
almost chemical perspective. And then once we're getting to compatibility, well, now we're talking about, okay, what sort of red lines do we have in terms of what acts we may like to do, in
Right.
terms of sexual dynamics, in terms of relationship dynamics? I mean, you might have someone that says, you know what, I want a monogamous relationship. You could have someone that says, I want to be polyamorous. We have a massive chasm that we can't cross. There's a red
Right.
line there, right?
Right. Right.
I've met guys, for example, where they love anal sex and they are adamant about that. Well, if you have a partner where the partner is like, no way this is
Right.
happening,
Hard no on
again,
that or something. Yeah.
we've got a hard no, right? So that's where I'm looking at, okay, if we're looking at what is sexual satisfaction, how are we lining up these 3 different points? Do we have alignment that is good or workable or sufficient? Because I've had alignment where it wasn't. And
Yeah.
I remember being in that relationship, and I stayed in it for so long because what do people tell you? If you just learn to communicate better, it'll
Right.
be okay.
Right.
And I say to people, I said, well, if that was so true, there must be a way that I can communicate my way to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And there's
Exactly.
no amount of communication going to make me 6'5". I'm
Right.
5'10", right? So these things are realities, and I'm sure you experience them all the time too, right? People just don't like to discuss them, and they don't like to say, well, these things actually matter to a sexual relationship. From my lens and from what I've seen, they do. And so it's just, well, it's a big part of it is just understanding what is it that I do like? What
Yeah.
does create the best sensations? Because one of the things that I've noticed is when you get clear on that, like what it is about sex that I want. Well, now when you see it, you hold on to it. Because a lot of guys, you know, and I've been in this boat myself, they can get the wandering eye and suddenly it's, you know, shiny something else syndrome. And when you fundamentally say, you know what, no, this is an excellent sexual relationship, I am happy, and you can do that internally and say, you know what, this is good, then you're not looking around.
Yeah. It sounds to me like these three levels, alignment, chemistry, and compatibility, are basically fixed. I mean, compatibility, maybe you can negotiate or you find the middle space, but it sounds like to some degree, these, we either fit or we don't. We either have that chemical scent reaction to each other or we don't. We are
Mm-hmm.
either on the same page about the acts or we're not, right? Is that it? Am I reading that right?
Yes. Well, so for me, the first two are very fixed, and the one that is malleable is the third.
Yeah.
Compatibility does get malleable because, you know, people do change.
Yeah.
They can say,
Right.
you
Or
know,
they
they're
can
they're
think, I thought I was a no on anal sex, but now that I've tried
yeah,
it,
yeah, I
or
tried
whatever.
it and it was like, hallelujah.
Right.
This is the thing, right? But no, I mean that was the misnomer that I had too, just in terms of alignment, because I was like, this kind of hurts. It doesn't feel really good.
Yeah.
And it's never going to change. And then it's, you know, when I have those discussions with men, I say, look, figure out what it is you like, and then at least be able to make a conscious decision. Because
Right.
if you, for example, you know, for me, the sexual experience and the sensory experience is exceptionally high on my list of values. So if I'm looking at my list of sexual values, it's at the top. So for me, it's like, okay, this matters a lot, and I'm not willing to compromise on it. But for some other people, if they said, you know what, the sensory experience, it doesn't matter that much, and they do that consciously, and maybe
Right.
all
Right.
the other intangibles about this individual are so amazing that they say, you know what, well, the sex, it's so, but everything else is great. And as long as you're doing that consciously and
Right.
stepping into it, saying you understand it, then there's no problem.
Yeah.
What I find though is a lot of people do it unconsciously. And so they're just like, well, something's wrong with the relationship. I don't know what it is. And they don't
Yeah.
want to address like what it could possibly be.
Yeah.
And if it was alignment, then understanding this won't change.
Right.
It hasn't changed for the last 5 years. It's not going to change for the next 5 years.
Right.
And be satisfied with it and be okay with it, or just understand if that sensory experience is what I'm looking for, then I would have to look for a different partner. And I'd have to say, you know what? This relationship is just going to have to come to its end
Yeah.
because we're not getting what we want out of it.
Yeah.
And that's
And the
just how
same,
I kind
yeah.
of
And
look
the
at
same
that.
thing can happen with compatibility too, right? If something's
Yeah.
really important to somebody, it might be a reason to end the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my viewpoint on that.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about performance. I'll make myself use that word. What's what's the
I'm
main
not
thing?
forcing you to make it
No, no,
to use it.
I'll use it in
I
this
just see my lens through it. So
in the context of this conversation.
yeah.
Um, I mean, maybe you've already said it's mindset, but like, what is the main thing that's holding people back or getting in the way for men that's
Well,
making it difficult to show up they want the way they want to?
so it's sort of two big things, right? First of all, it is belief. It's belief system. It's belief about themselves. It's belief about what they are capable of, right? And you know, one of the things that, because I had some people ask me once, they asked about the first time that I had ever performed on camera, and and I said it was easy, and I told them the reason why it was easy for me was I had irrational belief in my penis,
Mm.
right? And only because it just wasn't on my map, like failure wasn't on my map of reality,
Right, right.
right? So, and if we think about belief, it's something I might touch on later as well. There's this whole circle with belief, right? So that belief fundamentally creates our experience. You know, if we believe something, it generally almost every time will come true, right?
Yes,
And then the downside is that experience now confirms our belief.
yes. Right.
And so you end up trapped in this almost doom loop of, okay, belief experience. And then people wonder, well, it's just never changing, right? And
Yeah,
so,
doom loop if you have a negative experience, right? So if some
yeah,
guy, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Or, it can be we can also have the thing with a positive experience,
right.
right? And so that's one of the things is, okay, well, we need to generate a new belief system. And then the other thing is, well, if we start looking at sex more strategically, we can at least set ourselves up to have success, to have a new experience. Because we got to go at it from one way or the other. Either we got to have that belief or need to have that experience. And one of the things that I really learned and leaned into a lot over my years as an actor was, okay, how can I change this experience? How can I set things up in a fashion where I have a greater than 80% chance of success so that I can start stacking win upon win upon win
Mm,
so
which
that I
then will
can now
create a belief, right? Yeah,
exactly, right? Because it's one or the other. Either we're just going to magically change our belief system, which can happen, right? We
right.
can do that through NLP, we can do it through hypnosis, we can do it through, sometimes just the oddest of things occurring that suddenly gives us this aha moment and things just work. Or we got to find a way in the moment to shift something so our experience shifts a little bit.
Are you saying that it's easier to shift the experience if you're strategic? Like that might be the easier
I
leverage
find
point
it's
to
the
change
easier way.
things? Okay.
I find it's easiest because more often than not, what I've found is in every moment, because I went through this, and again, you know, I wouldn't know if I would say I've had the privilege of it, but I've seen hundreds of actors work over my time. I've seen more failures than any straight man should probably see with his own eyes. And you start to understand, well, what's going on with the psychology of it?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this guy having no problem and this guy is now failing? And a lot of it is in that whole how they're setting things up, right? And what I noticed was in almost every case, and I would say literally every case, there are moments in time where you can save the show. That's kind of
Mm,
how I call it, right? It's like, hey, we're struggling. We can't get it up. We're struggling to be able to last long enough. There are things that we can do to change everything. It's just recognizing whatever tools we have at our disposal. And usually when things go wrong, it's because we're not seeing what's possible.
mm.
So a lot of guys get there and it's just like, it's not working. And it's like this definitive, like, that's it. It's like, no, that's not it. We got a million different things we can do here. But if we're not consciously aware of them, we can't act on them.
Right.
And then we get down into that spiral of thought, like, oh God, here we go again. It's like I always say the two worst words any man can say is I hope.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. I hope she likes me.
I
I
hope it
hope it works
works.
this time.
Right.
I hope I can last long enough. I hope. Because think about that language. Within I hope, we are presupposing that it's
Yes.
not going to go well.
Yeah. And I need some real luck to get through this
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
do I have my 4-leaf clover in my back pocket? Like,
Right.
let's have some kumbaya beforehand.
Well, and
Right.
even if it's like, air quotes for me successful, it's just like, phew, I got through that time, but it doesn't always set you up to believe, have that confidence the next time if you're approaching it
Yeah.
with, you know, hope and prayers. So
Yes.
are there sort of a set of strategies that are available to, I mean, is there some, I guess want to ask that, are there a million different ones and we can't really, or what are the top ones that you could share?
Well, so are we talking about erectile dysfunction, or would we be talking about premature ejaculation, or sort of just general strategies? Where would you want to
Well,
go?
why don't we talk about those two things separately? So erectile
Sure.
dysfunction first, and then premature ejaculation second.
Yeah. So in terms of erectile dysfunction, one of the big things is first thinking about, okay, sensations. And we need to be able to manage and leverage sensations. So, like, I just got an email from one of my clients who had been struggling with his erections. And the first thing when I look at an erectile struggle is, okay, what bucket is it going in? Because for me, we have 4 buckets. Okay. Is it actually performance anxiety?
Right.
Okay. Is it overuse? Is it sickness? Or is it what I have? I have a mythical category said that's called unknown.
Okay. Anything
Well,
else?
well, it's a very specific category.
Okay.
And the reason I have this as a category is if you've ever gone to, let's just say, are you a big gym fanatic?
No, I've been to gyms, but but I'm not a
Okay, well,
fanatic.
some
Yeah.
some of your male listeners will get this. Okay, so you're going to the gym and you're going to go do some bench press. You slept 10 hours. You drank your water. You had your vitamins. You had a great breakfast. You did everything perfect, right? And you lift like 20 pounds less than you did last time at the gym. And you're like, I did everything. It was perfect. I can't understand why
Yeah.
magically today my muscles are saying no. Conversely, and so many gym guys have had this experience. You went out drinking with the boys, you did all
Right.
this stuff, and
Right.
you're like, oh God, do I have to go to the gym? Fine. You go there, new PR. Why? It doesn't make any sense. And so that's why when I have that category of unknown, sometimes it's not performance anxiety.
Right. Okay.
Like, and you know when you're scared, at least you have a
Yeah.
real
Right.
good
Right.
idea,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm
I hope
calm as
it
a
works.
cucumber.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm calm as a cucumber. It's not overuse, right? I feel great. And today it got 95% hard.
Yeah.
It got 90% hard. Like it didn't act like it normally did,
Okay.
you know? And a big thing that I always take my clients through is I talk about something called your default state, where I measure out, okay, we got to have all your penile metrics because you need to know what these things are so that you can understand when something is off that you don't need to worry about.
Mm.
Because you can say, you know what, this isn't how I normally operate. So
This is
if this
just
is
one of those
another thing,
outliers. Yeah.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
just, put it past my memory and say, you know what, this one is just, one for the books, but it's not going to define me going forward because I know what my metrics are and I know how 99.9% of the time how my body reacts, right? So that's one of the first things is like, okay, what are our sensations like? And this. Then we need to start thinking about, okay, in terms of setting ourselves up for success, we need to fundamentally understand that we can separate our erections into 2 completely separate pathways. And it's the one thing I talk about often with the P2 performance pathways, as I call it. Okay. Because as an actor, one of the greatest gifts that I got from going through that journey was understanding just how cleanly you can bifurcate an erection into a psychological and a physical.
Hmm.
And it's very clean once you sort of get used to it.
Okay.
Right. And the problem is most guys, they have it collapsed as one thing. It's like they have their erection. Okay. So when it doesn't work, it's like, oh no, right? It's like it's not working. Well, there's aspects of an erection which are purely psychological. If I'm, for example, I'm making out with a woman, there's no physical contact at all going on. But suddenly, magically, you're rock hard,
Right.
right? I might see something, no contact whatsoever. Magically, I'm rock hard. I might smell something, magically rock hard. So we've got these different psychological triggers that do exist. And when they work, boy, do they work,
Well, this is where our brain is our biggest sex organ, right? Because
right?
yeah.
Except they're completely unreliable.
Mm.
So when you're relying on psychological triggers, you're literally like putting your thumb up and like, okay, do the gods of erections, are they going to allow me to get it up today? Because I could make out with my girlfriend on Monday and it's rock hard in the pants. I might make her out with her on Tuesday. Nothing. What changed?
So these
She
things are
didn't.
additive, right? The physical stimulation and then the mental or psychological factors, right? They combine, right?
They do, but they can be separated.
Okay.
And that's where the agency becomes for a man, right? Because when you have them collapsed, again, it's like things aren't working. This is failing. I don't know what to do. And it's like, well, no, we have that psychological erection, which is if you once you have anxiety, that is the first thing to go.
Right.
That's not working, right? But what I learned was okay, we can go purely 100% into sensations.
Mm,
If we do that with focused intent, we can get hard. We don't have to be turned on. We don't have to be excited. We don't need to have anything going on. Like there was a joke that, I say, if I had relied on my psychological erection as an adult actor, I would have had a job for about 5 days, right? Because you're sitting there and you're on a set and things are difficult.
yeah. Right.
And
Crews and
it's like,
cameras and lights and
yeah,
yeah,
and it's like
cues and
now, do it now, right? And that's when you learn, okay, there is so much untapped potential when you just fully embrace sensations and something I call maneuvers of consciousness, moving your conscious attention around your body to be able to then extract that erection with no psychological triggers needed.
okay.
And when you understand that, okay, this is available to me, you don't get stressed out because it's like, okay, I don't have the erection. It's not just coming magically. Let me start working with this and let me see what I can do to bring this out. And then you start to layer on different sort of strategic maneuvers behind that, because every guy, right? And this is where I find cunnilingus is exceptionally useful as a distraction maneuver. Distraction insofar as, well, if we're without an erection and you see it, we're mortified.
Yeah.
So now we've made the problem 1,000 times worse for ourselves.
Right.
So in terms of, okay, how are we going to sort of build a belief system? Well, if we can get 15, 20, 25% blood flow in there before anything else happens, and if we're able to give you a good time at the same time as we're just getting 30% blood flow, 30% blood flow is the most important thing ever when it comes to building your self-confidence.
Right.
Because now it's like, okay, even if we're going to start a sexual interaction, we have some sort of confidence behind us. And to go from 30% to 100% for a man is fairly easy. To go from 0 to 30 is really hard.
Right.
It's an analogy I often use. Did you ever? Well, maybe you haven't, but there is a old sporting event called the World's Strongest Man.
Okay.
If you ever seen it, like they pull like the plane, they'll pull like a bus, right? And it's the same thing in terms of your penis. Like those guys, they get on there, and it's like the
Yeah.
first thing. It's
Getting it
like
to start is the hard part, right?
it
Yeah.
it's baby steps, right? It's these little baby steps, and then soon enough, you see a 250-pound man, and he's running with a plane behind him.
Yeah.
This is your penis. So if we get to that 30% threshold, to go up to 100% relatively fast.
Yeah.
So we need to focus on that bottom 30%. And that's where we need to do things, like I said, distraction maneuvers, sleight of hand maneuvers. We'll use cunnilingus. We'll use all these different things so that you're not aware that we're having a problem. Because if you're not aware that we're having a problem, we can calm our own system down enough so that we don't have a problem.
Yeah.
And most guys aren't thinking that way. They're thinking, well, if she does something, well, hopefully that'll get it started. Unlikely, because what's going to happen? You're going to present the fact that you're soft.
Right. Your penis is a center of attention at that point, right? And that's not what you
I mean,
want.
you got glaring lights on that thing saying, ooh, this thing is completely flaccid.
Yeah.
So now you're under the stress because now you're like, God, I hope it gets hard really fast. Because your head is already spinning there because, like, oh, now pressure, pressure, pressure.
Right.
She's thinking, he doesn't like me.
Yeah.
He's not attracted to me. So she's going into her own set of thought processes around why this is so.
Right.
None of this on either side is helpful.
Yeah.
So if we can mitigate it before it's even going to become a problem, we have a greater chance of success.
Right.
And a lot of guys just aren't thinking in terms of all the different strategic things that are available to them.
Okay.
You know, they'll get out there, they'll present, and then they'll go inside themselves in fear and they will fail. And then all they're going to do is ruminate on that over and over and over.
Right. Right. And it starts that whole doom loop.
Yeah.
So what's your top strategy or two you want to share about premature ejaculation?
So when we're talking about premature ejaculation, a couple different things. First, this is very strategic, and this comes back to a theory of mine that I noticed through my 25 years in the business. And it's something I refer to often as the 5-minute marker. So one of the things, again, you know, having been in the position that I was, you just get access to a lot of strange data that most normal people wouldn't see, right? And what I noticed over and over and over again, over 20 plus years, was every actor could have a bad day, feel sensitive, or have a bad start. What I found was the magic number generally tended to be 5 minutes.
Mm.
Okay. At the 5-minute point, you will start to desensitize. So when I work with men, I say, look, we're not trying to get to 40 minutes. We're not trying to get to 50 minutes. We're not trying to get to any mythical number that you have in your head. We're going for 5, because 0.5 seconds of insertion until 5 minutes, that is our danger time. And so we need to be very strategic about that. So one of the first things I tell all my clients, well, if we were to take you and put you in what I call the big 3+1, because there's 4 positions that I recommend guys do to maximize clitoral contact or to be able to achieve a specific goal in the bedroom. Let's just say we're going to go do these positions. And I said to them, okay, if you were going to do, say, Monday, we're going to have you do missionary with your girlfriend. Tuesday, you're going to do cowgirl. Wednesday, you're going to do doggy. And Thursday, you're going to be spoon. And I want you to sit there with a timer and time each one. You will find one of them is easier for you to last in than the others. And it's true.
Okay.
And the problem, and again, we're coming back to strategy. Most guys, what do? Oh, let's start with missionary. Sounds great. Horrible plan, generally speaking. Generally speaking, it's probably going to be the one that you're going to ejaculate the fastest in. There's nothing to create any sort of discomfort. It lines up anatomically perfect. It's just great. It's great for the woman too. Would it be your starting position though? If our mythical number is we're trying to get to 5 minutes,
Right.
and we maybe have a position that could get us to say 4, right? And then we have another position that would get us only to 30 seconds. Which one should we be starting with?
Right. Right.
Right. And we have to think about it from this perspective. And this is something that I talk about where guys tend to abdicate their leadership. Because if we start looking at it from a big picture perspective, and I always teach all my clients this, it's like, if our grand goal is that we would love the woman to have a great time, if that is our vision and that is our mantra, and she says, you know, I would like to start with missionary first, but you know, you'll only last 30 seconds. Is it really
Right.
in her greatest interest, greatest being total, to do what she says, or in service of her, would it be better, you know, babe, let's start with spoon. I'll get to the missionary 6 minutes, 7 minutes, once I got things
Right.
under control. Now
Right.
we
Right.
can
Right.
go for 20 minutes. We can go for 25 minutes. Maybe we're doing some crazy stuff, right? Because now maybe he's got such control at that point that he can. But it all starts with your beginning strategy.
Yeah.
Because if you do the first thing and you abdicate that leadership and you're at 30 seconds, well, now you got to figure out that next 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And most guys don't.
Right. And then you're
They
going to
don't have
pile
the
on to the
tools.
doom loop again, right? You're going to have an
Yep.
experience or you feel disappointed or it's like
Yeah.
you failed. Yeah.
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 Right. And so, yeah. And so that's one of the big ones. It's like, okay, we just start from there, even before we get into all the different tools and the tactics and the supplements and all the different things that we can do, because there's about 6 or 7 different things that I take the guys through in terms of penile exercises, ways to alter your neurology, supplements that I would recommend, biohacks to give yourself another couple minutes in the bedroom, because we need to stack those on top of each other. It's like, hey, if I can give myself an extra minute and a half here, an extra 2 minutes here, we do that a couple times. Well, now we start to desensitize. Now we're like, oh, wow, I have so much leverage suddenly into what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we don't do that and we just do that first great feeling position that we're like, oh, sounds good, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And then again, it's like you said, you'll get into that doom loop of, why me? Why does it keep happening? I'm a failure. She won't call me back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's been really interesting. Would you share how people can reach out to you, what you've got available, how they could work with you?
Yeah. So they just need to go to bedroomscore.com. I have a short quiz there. They can see what their level of sexual intelligence is, see how they measure up in the bedroom. And then depending on how they score, I have different things that can help them with whatever the problem is that they're dealing with, whether it's premature ejaculation, performance anxiety, inability of skill sets, inability to either give the woman an orgasm or be able to maximize clitoral contact, or just simply wisdom and knowledge, because a lot of times guys don't know what they don't know. And even condom choice can massively impact your ability to get an erection, to be able to ejaculate, to be able to do all these things. And most guys simply grab whatever is at the store,
Right.
right? They're not thinking in terms of a strategy and how different condoms are and what they can do for you. So yeah, just go to bedroomscore.com, take the test and go from there.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.